Hello, Assalamu alaikum. It's me, Dr. Muhammad Naseem Shirzad, and today I'm just giving you uh, the approach and the methodology that how to study the anatomy and specifically uh, the anatomy of the upper limb. Remember one thing that this need or discussion and always try to discuss with each other and try to have netter in front of you so to have a good visual memory and what I have written, nothing to be missed. Each and every line is from past paper, but this is in one of the organized manner. That's why you need to have idea of the topic, not to have idea of the haphazard MCQ. So don't start always from one liner. Better to have good understanding of the chapter of the topic, be systemic, be in organized manner. For example, how I have written and what's my approach for upper limb. I have first written the bones, after that the muscles, the nerves and the arterial supply. For example, I just want to explain these two topics of clavicle. For example, the first line I have written that it is also called collar or beauty bone. So this is from past paper and they have asked it. Number second, that the clavicle provide the continuity, a bonious continuity between the thorax and upper limb. It's simple, nothing difficult. This is important point. The next, that what is the site of fracture of the clavicle. So they are asking that the typical site of the fracture is the middle third, but they sometimes giving lateral to two third, medial two third. So the weakest point in the clavicle is actually the junction of the middle and outer third. So the middle part, or we can say the middle, the junction of the middle and outer two third. Outer two third mean lateral two third. So these they like the problem is that if we don't understand the sentence, this exact the point of weakness. So for this you can even open the Google and just open the picture of the clavicle and try to locate exactly the area which one is the weakest area, so to have a visual memory. That's why I'm saying better to have a letter in front of you. So this is the junction of middle and a lateral two third or outer two third is the weakest area, and for that I have also given a reference in this book. The second bone thing is that is the first bone which is ossifying in the intrauterine life. Number third, that the important thing is that it is the only long bone that is placed horizontally. Now you look, none of the bone which is a long bone and that is placed horizontally. So that is this is clavicle, and it is not exactly the long bone, but one modification of the long bone because it ossify from the membrane. That's why we are saying that it's the modification of a long bone because it ossify from the membrane, it's intrauterine. So you need to have a good command on all these words. Other important point about clavicle is that it is the most common bone fracture during delivery and labor. Now this point, which is the last point, and that is the most commonly fracture bone in the body is the clavicle, but sometimes they can change the wording, and this wording is understanding is important. You don't to answer blindly, you need to understand what asking in the stem. The understanding of the stem is always important. They can just change a single word. For example, if they just change it the most common long bone fracture, so it's not a long bone fracture, so your statement may be changed into femur, right? So the long bone fracture and the most common fracture bone, these two different statement. But if they simply ask the most common fracture bone in the body, then the answer will be clavicle. But if they change the most common long bone fracture, then your answer should be changed, and I have given the reference for this point because it's important. Now coming toward the scapula. Number first, the scapula is the flat triangular bone. It's MCQs and it is present between the posterior surface between 2 and 7 rib, and the inferior angle of the scapula is located at the level of T7. The other point that the infraglenate tubercle, I means the long head of the tricep brachii muscle originates while from the supraglenoid tubercle is the long head of the bicep brachii muscle originates. So again, this is MCQ. Another MCQ, that in case of fracture of coracoid process of scapula, damage to pectoralis minor muscle occur because of this attachment. I have given these two differences, although it's not closely correlated with the scapula, but there was a point on scapula, so I thought why not to add other same statement with this point to get understanding how CPSP or how FCPS Part 1 exam changing the things. Number first, they asking the distance by which two stimuli must be separated to be pursued is two separate stimuli is greatest on the back of the scapula. Like if you place two things on the back of the scapula, so between one scapula and other scapula there is a greatest space. So the by space wise there is a great space in which you will be differentiating that the two things are different. So this is one statement. You can identify two different things, but the space is very large, greatest space. The second point is the 2 point discrimination. So if if we put two things on the fingertip, you can differentiate two things even with very close distance, because the space on the fingertip is low and you can differentiate two things very highly. So 2 point discrimination, that's why very high in the fingertip and lips, even on lips, but it's very lowest at the back. This is MCQ. The third MCQ is that the 2 point discrimination and the mechanism which is involved, that is the lateral inhibition mechanism, and contrast between the active receptive field and inactive neighbors, that is called lateral inhibition. So this is the methodology of study you need to discuss, you need to talk, you need to understand. Best of luck.